Ms. Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too rise in opposition of this bill. It is not a narrow measure, and it completely ignores a longstanding common law. It's a civil liability for business contract that works with another firm, despite the fact that the business has little or no control over the relationship of its subcontracted employees. Take a vineyard, for example. A vineyard company for 3 weeks out of the year hires a bottling firm that comes in with its own employees onto the vineyard property. The vineyard owner pays the bottling company, but for whatever reason, the bottling company violates one of the labor laws, which it should not violate, but if it does, there are laws that remedy that portion of that employer. The vineyard owner would be responsible for the bottling company's employees, even though they didn't have control over the employees. It's the bottling company's responsibility because they're the true employer for payment of wages, workers' comp, and liability insurance. If you look at the author has said in previous arguments when this bill was on the floor before that it can be remedied by a simple contract. Well, having a contract from one client company to the employer or the client company in which you obtain the services doesn't alleviate you of liability or going to court. And you could spend $100,000 not having any liability as the client company contractor. You could still spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in defense fees in order to protect your business from something that a vendor that you hired did. The other side of that coin is that when you have a lawsuit that comes at you in that manner and you don't have any control over the employers, this bill also, or the employees, this bill also requires you to have records on the employees that are not your employees. And under HIPAA laws and other confidentiality laws for employees, you are not allowed to have records on employees that are technically not your employees. And this law requires you, if it's passed, to produce employee records which you have no authority to have as a client company employer. I want to reiterate what my seatmate said. You know, the author stands up and says this is to protect all employees. It's to protect these employees that are in low socioeconomic disadvantaged communities. We heard it in committee. They all came up and lined up. But this law exempt all government clients, all government clients. So if you're a contractor and you comply with the government and you don't pay your workers' comp or you don't pay your employees, those employees have no remedy to come back to the government. It also excludes all collective bargaining agreements. So you are a collective bargaining agreement under a union, your employees don't matter as much as well. So that says one of two things. Number one, he doesn't care if the union and collective bargaining employees are taken care of or that the state employees that are subcontractors are taken care of, or it's those entities had enough money to buy their way out of this bill. And last I checked on the Senate, that was against the law and the FBI is investigating. So I would ask for a no vote so that we can keep the improprieties out of this House.
I would remind members not to use pejorative terms or impugn the interests and the positions of other members in presenting in favor or in opposition of legislation. Ms. Grove, you may proceed on the substance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wasn't really trying to target anybody on the House floor. I just was making a point that I would like to not have those integrity issues brought to this House and this floor. There's only two reasons why this is out of this bill. The two reasons is that there was enough money to buy their way out, or that they don't care about the employees that are contracted to state government or collective bargaining units. This is a bad bill for business. It's a bad bill for private business. It's a bad bill for government. Every employer that has their own contracts with liability insurance, workers' comp, and they have their own sets of policies, they should be responsible for the employees that they hire, and you shouldn't make another person accountable for those issues. Thank you. I would ask for a no vote.